Hi guys, just wanted to run you through a really great free piece of software called Golden Cheetah. I've mentioned it a number of times in the sessions, but I think it has real relevance now in this off-season period where we're basically looking to get better. Um, Now, what ideally we want you using this for is to be able to essentially check your personal bests, your personal best powers, your critical powers, or your power duration curve, which I'll talk about in a second. But firstly, just to show you how you get your data into this piece of software, because that's something I get asked about quite a lot. It's a bit fiddly, and that's the downside to it being a free piece of software. You can't auto sync it with Training Peaks. But if we go to Training Peaks, it's really easy to download your data. Just FYI, all you need to do is go to the cog next to your name on the desktop version. This is go to export data, put in a time frame, probably the previous year, export it, and then you have to wait a few minutes, takes 3 or 4 minutes usually. You export it, save it down to your desktop, um, and then you'll be able to import it into Golden Cheetah. You do that by going to the activity tab. Unfortunately, the drop down doesn't show on this screen recording for some reason. But if you click the activity tab, there's a tab called import file, and basically you just import the file that you've just downloaded from Training Peaks. It can take a little while, about 5 minutes, for it to fully populate and upload. And sometimes it uploads, and then you have to shut Golden Cheetah down for it to then properly load all your data up again. So again, as I say, a bit of a faff sometimes, but it's free, and it is actually a really useful piece of software once you kind of get used to it. I use a paid piece of software called WKO5, but it's a couple £100, so you probably don't want to fork out on that just in order to be able to track your CP curve. Um, what is the CP curve? Well, it's this thing basically. Also known as your power duration curve. Essentially, what it is your personal bests over different time frames. Your personal best power, that is. So, if we take a recent example, we did a VO2 focus session, which was 3 minute intervals. The first interval was a benchmarking interval where we got you going basically as hard as you could for the full 3 minutes, essentially to set a personal best if possible. And the reason this is so useful is because if we do sessions like that, or we come up to performance testing where we test you over different energy systems, different power durations, you can come to this curve. Assuming you keep it up to date by regularly importing your data, you can come to this curve before you come to a session like that and check what your personal best is. So, for example, say we had those 3 minute VO2 intervals again. I could come to this curve and I could see that my best over that 3 minute period is 423 watts, and then I know, like, when I do that benchmarking rep, I've got to keep my power above 423 watts. And for me, I find that's a really motivating thing. Um, and again, after a session, you can come back. Okay, how did I do in that previous session? How does it match up to my CP curve? Was it good? Was it bad? And it's a really kind of, there's a lot of other different tools on Golden Cheetah, but that CP curve I would suggest is probably the most useful and the most important one to keep up to date. So that when you come to benchmarking testing sessions, you can just quickly check, okay, I need to beat that in order to go one better. And over time, hopefully, it will be a self-fulfilling prophecy as you're able to dig a little bit deeper to beat that number. So there you go, really great piece of software. It's worth taking a bit of time getting used to it because it's a bit clunky. But once you kind of get the hang of it, and you don't get overwhelmed by all the charts and numbers and stuff, I don't say that in a patronising way. I'm borderline numerically illiterate, so that isn't judgment. But hopefully you find that useful, guys.